Okay, so here are my expanded thoughts on Bohemian Rhapsody. I absolutely, really, really, really love this movie. Um, Look, it's not totally accurate, but none of these biopics or uh, ever are. You know, like they always take a little bit of like creative liberty with it and so forth and so forth. Because you can't recreate everything, okay? But listen, in the beginning of the movie, there was 20th Century Fox fanfare came up, but it was done all in guitar and everything, just like a Queen song. So that was pretty badass. And then when I did some research, I found out that it was like I think the members of Queen did that. The guitarist did that for the opening of the movie. Those two guys were both. Two of the guys were both the drummer and the guitarist were both executive producers on the film, I think. So the movie opens up where like you're at Live Aid, the one that happened in the 1980s, that was trying to raise money for kids in Ethiopia because they were starving. The famine was so bad. So you're watching. You don't get to see Freddie Mercury's face, but you're seeing like his body like walk out of the trailer. It was like a little airstream all the way up the stairs, blah, 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 blah. And then the curtains open up and then you see the swarms, 100,000 people. And it was one of the biggest concerts in history. And because not only there's like 100,000 people there, it was broadcast to like 1.9 billion people on the planet. And it was like a huge event. So what's really cool is then the movie like stops, and of course it reverts back to like the character Freddie Mercury going to a bar. Actually, there's tension at the dinner table with the family because he was like, which I didn't even know that Freddie Mercury was Indian. His parents were both Indian or Pakistanis. I think they kept saying Pax or something like that in the film. I hope I didn't screw that up and offend people. But so what happens is the parents don't approve of his behavior, how he wants to distance himself from the family name. Fredruk was his real name, and so he cut it to Freddie and then dropped the whole last name altogether and came up with Mercury and. So he goes to see a live show and at like one of the colleges, like it's a college band. And after the show, he sees this band. He loves this band. He knows all their songs. And out in the parking lot, there's a dispute between some of the band members and the guitarist and lead singer. I think he played bass and lead singer. He quit the band and said, this band isn't going to go anywhere. I'm going off with some other tutti frutti band. And they said the name, but I don't remember. And anyway, make a long story short, this guy disses. And then Freddie Mercury's like, hey, I'd like to sing. And they're like, nah, man, your teeth, your teeth are all screwed up. And then he like just starts singing in the parking lot. And they were like, okay, next thing you know, they're in band practice and all. And then the movie takes off from there. There's some really amazing. There was an amazing dynamic between Freddie Mercury and Mary, which was his fiance / life partner, because he had this dual life. Like he loved her, and they really connected, and all this kind of stuff. But she always knew that something was off about him, and she respected it. And although it drove her crazy, she moved on and married and had a kid, but they always stayed together. And what's really crazy is like when Freddie Mercury died, he willed everything, his estate, his house, like everything to Mary, because they were like life partners. And their relationship was so beautiful, even though he was so mixed in his head about what he was trying to do with himself. And it was really good. And what was really cool about this movie was it was told from the perspectives of the other band members. So it was like how they perceived Freddie Mercury. Because obviously Freddie's not with us. He can't say how things and events happened when he did it or when he was living. And so it was really crazy. Some of the events throughout the movie have been changed when some of the songs were created. And then also I know at the ending, right before they went on Live Aid, when they had a dress rehearsal and Freddie Mercury was already suffering from some of the symptoms of having HIV and had the AIDS, full-blown AIDS at that time. he had told his bandmates right before Live Aid, and then then the next day they went on stage and they performed fantastic, and then he died a few years later, I think, and but he didn't tell them at that point. So that was another one of those things where they took a little bit of liberty to give the movie this beautiful arc, and again, like if you get everything you need to know about Queen. You really do. All the band members, Freddie Mercury, everything that went on, the dynamic, the record deals. Mike Myers was in the film. He played like the head of EMI, I think. And he was like, when they came to him with the Bohemian Rhapsody song, he didn't want to put it out. He said it was 6 minutes. Radio airplay is like 3 minutes a song. They'll never put it on the air. And then, then they're playing on Live Aid. Which was crazy was at the end of the film, there's a scene where they're back with their manager, and Freddie Mercury's trying to get back in the band because he had left. He had signed like a $4 million deal to go do 2 solo albums, and the band was all upset because they wanted Queen to be Queen forever. And so anyway, they start rattling off before they make the decision if they're going to play Live Aid. They start rattling off all the names of the bands that were going to be playing. The Rolling Stones, so forth and so forth. And then it's Neil Young, or I think anyway, they just rattled off like everybody that was at Live Aid, and it was going to be the biggest show ever on the planet broadcast. And so they were like, okay, let's do it. What was really cool is the guy who played the bass, the actor who played the bass in the film, was also the little kid in Jurassic Park, the original Jurassic Park, the one that held onto the fence and got shocked and his hair got all crazy. He's all grown up, and I saw his face, and my wife was next to me. I said, "That's the kid. Isn't that the kid from Jurassic Park? He's all grown up." She was like, "I think so." We checked IMDb later, and sure enough, it was him. So that was really cool. I can't say enough about all the performances altogether. I mean, everybody who played all the different band members, when you look at them against pictures of the real life band members, it was just amazing, absolutely amazing. The movie was rated PG-13. It's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. There was no nudity in the movie and no graphic sexual crazy activity that went on. It was a very tame movie for what they were trying to portray. But you know what? It's okay. A wide audience needs to see this film. But one thing that did bother me was, which I did not watch, I went ahead and watched the Live Aid performance on YouTube, which you should do it, seek it out, because they rehearsed it and did every single move exactly the way they all did, how they walked across the stage at what exact time, every throwback of the head, every arm, jetting out like this, to the crowd, the whole 9 yards. They recreated that Live Aid thing perfectly. But in the trailers, it makes you think that they're playing We Will Rock You, because everyone's doing like this in the crowd. But they never played that at Live Aid. And so the movie was accurate. They never showed that. But that was just some slide of trickery there with the trailer to get people amped, because that song is such a huge song for them, and that's a way to draw people in. But they didn't play that. They did play Radio Gaga, which was one of their hits, and they played a little bit of Bohemian Rhapsody at the beginning of it, and then they played one more song, and then another song after that, I think. But the bottom line is, they did a fantastic job recreating this. So I'd love to see a split screen of the two. I'm going to see if there's anyone's done that yet on YouTube, of the Live Aid performance. But if it's still in theaters, they're not going to be able to get all the clips to see if they did it exactly right. But they did. They rehearsed the hell out of it and did it exactly right, which is really cool. So you're getting the closest thing to the Live Aid as humanly possible. I think that's pretty badass. Freddie Mercury, I didn't know, had all these cats. He named them all, and they all had the little gold dishes and everything, and they all, in his mansion, they all had their own room. And so that, you got to see this side that I wasn't aware of, but I'm sure there are other hardcore fans that probably knew all this stuff. I just, I loved Queen and still love Queen, but I wasn't the guy that knew all the backstory. And so that was really, really awesome. And there's a great scene where Freddie Mercury convinces the band members to sell everything they have plus their tour van just to record their first album. And it's a great scene. There's a lot of little light comedy throughout it, which I think that really helped the movie. And Freddie Mercury and the whole band had such a drive to do everything right. And what's really cool is the "We Will Rock You" song. They have this beautiful scene in the movie where the guitarist says, our fans are so interactive, and when they played a huge concert, I think it was in Japan, the entire crowd was singing with them, and they stopped. Like most musicians do, they'll stop and they'll let the audience, the thousands and thousands of audience members, sing a verse. And they said they wanted to do something where they made a song that was interactive with the crowd, so that they became part of the music. And it was the doom, 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 where you're stomping and you're doing that. And then he sang the lyrics, with it. And that was a way to make the fans part of the music, which when it's explained, and then Freddie Mercury didn't come up with that idea, it was the guitarist that came up with that idea. And they all started doing it. And then he wrote the lyrics to it and everything. And that was a really cool whole scene in the movie when they did that. That was one of my favorite parts. And again, if you could see how I'm just animated and having a good time, I'm smiling when I'm starting to recall the movie in my head. It was so good. And, your hair stands up in certain scenes when they're on stage and you're feeling the music. And if you can find a movie theater that has like PDX or Atmos sound or something, go see it, because it'll feel like a concert. It's really good the way they did the music. And great film, great biopic. And you should go see it. Again, PG-13, some of the subject matter is not so great for kids. But I think the fans, anyone 18 and up, is going to love this movie. I absolutely love this movie. And again, it brings awareness to a topic that, just because AIDS and HIV is not in the spotlight as much anymore as it was in the 80s when it was a huge epidemic and no one knew what was going on, it's still ravaging people in other countries, in Africa and stuff like that. I think I read not too long ago that there is the same amount of cases in one city in Africa as the entire amount of AIDS cases in the population of the United States. So if that gives you an idea that, there's still work to be done in that area. So it's an awareness movie too. But anyway, I loved it. I hope you like it, and I hope you go see it. So if you like this video, like it, share it, comment below, tell me your thoughts on the movie, and we'll see you on the next video.